go anywhere. This is going to be something that you are going to want to take in, absorb, flip around like a Rubik's Cube. This is called How to Push Back on Your Enemies. Now, I know some of you are saying, my enemies? I don't have any enemies. That's how I feel. Yes, I'm at that place. I don't have any enemies. I don't even want to think about I have enemies. But you know, and I know, there are things that come against you, especially if you're in a transition from this old world, from your world, into a new world. The last series that we were working on is about the end of the world. And I'm going to give you three things that's going to help you understand how to push back on your enemies. You'll never have to deal with your enemies again. They won't even get close to you. They won't get an inch to you. They can't even get into your superhero, near your superhero suit. They can't tug on your cape. They can't get near the S on your chest. I promise you, these three things are going to change everything about how you think. Now, if you're watching and this is your first time, make sure you type in first, or first time, or new, because it lets me know who you are and that you're here for the first time. If you are coming a second or third time and say, you know what, I like this, you can type that in too, because I like hearing from you. Make sure that you comment. You can wave, you can say hi, you can send emojis. I think that's what they call them, emojis. You can send emojis. You can shout hallelujah. If you can say yes, if something hits you, and it will hit you today, because these three things I'm about to tell you on how to push back on your enemies, to keep them away from you, is going to be so life-changing that once you get it, you'll keep it for the rest of your life. Also, share with a friend. And don't forget to like. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're on Instagram, follow. Do it now. It's only a button. Just bing. You can do it right now. Let's get into it. First of all, let me tell you how I got to this. We've been talking about the end of the world. And you know how I see the end of the world. I don't see it as merely the end of a planet or an asteroid or a comet hitting planet Earth and then kaboom, that's the end of it. I see the end of the world differently. And you can look back at some of our videos. Last week was a perfect one to understand it, to see how we think of the end of the world. And as a matter of fact, at the end of this broadcast, telecast, at the end of this social media cast, I'm going to be talking very plainly about our future of church, future of our church, the future of what we're going to do when we go back, how it's going to look. I'm going to talk about those things, and I'm going to talk about those things very plainly. I know. See, I sat down and talked to somebody, and I can be very cryptic at times. I can be very diplomatic and a little, I don't want to say unclear, because I want you to know that this is what I believe. But I'm going to be no cryptic, no places where I'm trying to say one thing, but I'm saying another thing. I'm just going to be very straightforward and just right down the center of the road. This is what it is. And you will understand exactly what I'm saying. So I'm going to talk about that later on at the end, because we are in a situation right now in our world we are in the end of a world. Now, our planet Earth, when we talk about it, when Jesus talks about it in Scripture, it's talked about in Two words. One is aeon. The word world, aeon, means culture. The other word, cosmos, Kosmos, means manifestation of what we see. The universe, Mars, Jupiter, the planets, whatever we can see, this is how we understand the world, the earth, the inhabitants. Aeon is the age. What's going on in our culture? What's going on in our the time that we're in? And this is how Jesus thought. And when he spoke of it in Matthew chapter 24, the end of the world, he was talking about the end of an age. And when we get to the end of a world, it's not that we're about to be gone and, oh my God, the end of the world and it's all over. The dinosaurs are coming back. No, that's not what this is. In order to get to the end of the world, you have to realize that you're going into a new world. Last week we ended that when a child comes out of the womb, it's developed its hands, its fingers, its toes, its lungs, its brain, its eyes, its digestive system. And all of these things that the child, that the baby has developed is not for the mother's womb or that world. It's for the new world that the child is being born into. So what's happening is God is developing in you, through you, around you, in your mind and your emotions, all of these new things during this particular time that is going to be necessary for this new age, for this new world. This is why things are changing and things are shifting. So don't resist it. You're going to need these new lungs and to breathe. You're going to need this new mind to think. What does Romans chapter 12 say? Don't be conformed to this world. Don't let this world shape you, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So transform. You're going to go to another world. Transformation. Another place. This is what we are preparing for. Now, let me tell you this story. It's interesting that Jesus is at the end of his life. He is at the end of this particular world of his. As a matter of fact, he's about to be captured and he's about to be taken to the cross. He's about to be killed. He's about to be crucified. And we're at that place now. And I wanted to pick that little spot, what happened to him, because when we come out of one world, Jesus made a statement. He says, when a woman is delivered of a child, there is trauma, there is pain, great pain. So when we are birthed out of an old world into a new world, when we make the transference, when we make the transformation, when we go from one space to the next, one world to the next world, it's not just boom, you're out of the old world into the new world. No, there is a process. And unfortunately, this process can be painful. It can be uncomfortable. I'm trying to use some diplomatic words. All right. I said I wasn't going to be so cryptic in this one, right? This transference from one world to another world can almost seem like it's taking you and dragging you through hell. Yes. And you're going to say, oh my God, what am I going through? What is happening in my life? It would look as if your life is about to be completely over, that this is done. But in reality, you're being transferred. You've got the equipment and you're preparing for another realm of existence, another world in which you will exist. See, understand something about Scripture. When we read Scripture, Scripture was written, it says that we might believe. It was not written as Jesus was going up and down the mountains and teaching, and somebody was sitting down there like a news anchor or something. Jesus said this, blessed are ye, and they'd write, blessed are ye. And then Jesus would give another interview and say, ye are the light of the world, and they would write, ye are the light. That's not the way it was done. As a matter of fact, the scriptures were not written in some cases until 25, 30 years after Jesus had left the planet. Imagine this. A generation had passed. And they were going around interviewing people and talking to people about what happened. What did he say? How did he do this? And Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, all of them. That's why all the Gospels are different. They're all coming from different angles. Some of them are the same because some of the journalists copied. Matthew copied from Luke. Luke copied from Mark. Some of them copied from each other. That's how it worked. But the Gospels were written that we might believe. The whole goal of it was not to be unbiased. It was meant to be biased. It was not to be, well, we're not left or right. We're not leaning Republican or Democrat. We're not either. We're just trying to get at the truth. What they were doing was trying to get to the fact of having you to understand this is why you should believe him. They were written that you might believe. And the words that we're using, it was written in Greek. So you have to kind of go into that language to understand how they were thinking, the culture they were in. And when you understand the culture they were in, how they were thinking, then you can draw that parallel to where we are right now into our world. And this is how we understand it. Jesus had finished teaching them. And now he knew they were about to take him, arrest him, and take him not only to jail, but to the worst beating, the precursor to his crucifixion. And the one that was involved in it was Judas. Judas Iscariot. Judas was about to be the center of his attention that was going to betray him. And now Jesus is about to transform to another world. How do you make it through when one world is ending and you don't know what this new world is going to be like? How do you get through? See, Ed Montgomery, why in the world would you talk about something like this, the end of the world, transformation, and going from one place to... Because when you look at what's happening in our world right now, we are, 15, 16, 17, however many days from an election. I believe this election that we're dealing with is going to be one of the most unique elections we've ever had. I don't believe it's just going to come and go and, well, we had an election and this person became the president of the United States and we moved on and the United States is going to move on as normal. No, the United States is not going to move on as normal. What happens is this, with this election is going to affect our lives one way or the other. Number two, it's going to affect religion because religion has dug down into this religion, into this election, and into this ideology. And they're saying certain things about how they feel about this world. And they're betting and banking that this whole thing about religion and politics is true. Because if it's not, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to say, you know what? I'm not into that anymore. How are people going to react? How do we look at our friends? I'm concerned. One of the things I'm concerned about is how we relate to each other. Black, white, Latino, and I can't bring all races into it, but because this one is very tender between black and white. People of color, people who are not of color. How do we relate with each other? I want to keep my friends. I want us to be able to go on talking and building step upon step on our relationships. But some of these people out there are making it very, very hard. They're turning masks into politics, masks into ideologies and philosophies. And these look, in a sense, like enemies. But you got to know what your real enemy is. Your real enemy is not the people who are coming after you. The real enemy is the philosophy or the ideology, and in some cases the religion or the theology that is behind what motivates others. Now watch this. I'm going to give you these three things. Three things that are going to help you to understand how to push back on your enemies and to keep your enemies from you. And to keep them from the S on your chest. The Superman on your cape is going to keep them to where you'll still be able to keep your superpowers and move to the next step, the next stage. Three things. Jesus is now leaving the communion service and everything where he's told his disciples somebody's going to betray me. He doesn't tell them who it is. He says, he who I dip sop with. In other words, I'm going to be eaten with, and who's going to sop up the gravy and put the bread in the gravy, and that's what, and this is who I'm with. But they were all doing it, so nobody knew exactly who it was. Finally, Jesus turns to Judas, whispers to him and said, listen, whatever you're going to do it quickly. Judas had already decided he was going to sell Jesus out for 30 pieces of silver. Put some money in his pocket. And it says that just before Jesus left the disciples to go do it, Jesus knew he was going to do it. Judas knew he was going to do it. He knew Jesus knew. But for some reason, Judas had already decided that this was right. See, most of the time, we realize our enemies, we think we're right and our enemies are wrong. And why can't our enemies see that they're wrong? Why are they doing this to me? They talking about me at the water cooler at the job. They talking about me on social media. Why would they get online and just say all this about me and tell all my business and say that, you know, I think I'm all that, and why would they do that to me? And I ain't done nothing but fry them some chicken and help them, give them some dinner and took the check every time we went out to eat when we dipped sop with each other. And what you discover is your enemies don't see it like that at all. They feel that they are doing right. As a matter of fact, Jesus made a statement in Matthew when he's talking about the end of the world. He says, toward the end of the world, he said, people are going to do things to you. And they're going to believe that by doing it to you and hurting you, they're doing God a favor. So that means you don't know how far people will go just to see that you don't make it. How far will people go to see that your relationship don't stay intact? How far will people go to make sure you don't go any higher in the company? How far will people go to make sure they take your place? They may believe that they're better equipped for the job than you, and they know good and well that you are, but they may believe that God gave them that job and they're doing the will of God. You think they don't think that people don't think they're doing the will of God by trying to put President Donald Trump back in office for another 4 years? You got a whole section of the church where 80% of them believe they're doing God a favor. They're doing the will of God by working to put Donald Trump back in office. And then you have other people who feel he's an enemy, but they feel you're the enemy. This is how the mindset is. Judas felt that Jesus was the enemy. And it didn't hurt to put a little bit of money in his pocket. So it says when they finally got, Jesus went to the garden because Jesus had to pray. We're entering into these three things that pushes back on your enemy. So Judas comes just before he gets there. Jesus is praying. He takes his disciples into the garden. You'll find this in Matthew chapter 24. Well, actually Matthew chapter 26. You can find this Matthew chapter 26. I like to give you the chapters so you can read. I don't want to get down in specific verses. I know it would make it so easy for you. And not only that, but it's also going to be in John chapter 18, and you'll look at it in verse 19 at the same time. It's called the Garden of Gethsemane. You'll see it. Jesus goes in there to pray, and he takes his disciples. When they go to the garden, it's at night, it's dark. Jesus doesn't take all 12 of them, well, 11, because one of them has already gone out to betray him. And he picks three: Peter, James, and John. He's always gone. These are his three ace boon coons, ride or die, life or live. These were his boys, his crew. They went with him through his toughest moments, through his toughest times. And Jesus was going through an emotional situation right here that was even blowing the Son of God's mind. Yeah. Jesus was not somebody that was always, hey, upbeat, I'm going forward. Yeah, hey, I'm motivated to reach the top. I'm going to the highest pinnacle. Hey, I'm going chugging up this mountain, everything. Jesus was not always like that. He was human in God and God in human. It was a mixture of both, just like you. This is why the teaching is so important, to understand how this works. Jesus was at the end of this world of his. He was about to transition into his next world. And when you're about to transition, it can be one of the most painful times of your life. And you got to learn how to focus and be quiet and be still. And you got to really get yourself together with your understanding of God. I tell people all the time, this is where you got to know who you are, why you're here, what you want, and what you plan to give. Those four things, that's what keeps you going. You got to know those things. Jesus was right there, took those three guys with him, and he left the other disciples at the entrance to this garden. And he took his three guys, his crew, a little bit deeper. And then he says, now guys, stay here. I'm going a little bit further because I got to get in touch with my Father. I got to get in touch with myself. I got to pull this thing together because I'm not cool right now. They said, yes, Lord. Jesus said, you got to understand now. This is not the Jesus that walked the water and had everything together. This is not the Jesus that healed the sick and had everything together. This is not the Jesus that raised up the dead. This is not that Jesus. This Jesus right here. I'm trying to pull things together. But if I can pull this together right now, I could get past this world and get into the next one. I'm being birthed out of an old world into a new one. And not just me, but you guys also. I need you to do something. Here are the three things. The three things that will enable you to push back on your enemies. Number one, Jesus tells his disciples to watch and pray. Actually, there are two of them in there. You hear it. Watch and pray. Number one is watch. Number two is pray. And number three is a knowledge of who I am. I'm telling you this up front. Watch, pray, know who I am. In other words, have a spiritual mentor that teaches you how to recognize who you are or the God in you. Not just preaching at you so you can be comforted. But there's a certain knowledge you have to have. This is what you're looking for from a spiritual mentor. These three things you got to have if you're going to push back on your enemies. Number one, watch. He tells his disciples, while you're sitting here, I'm going to go there, but I'm not going to be concerned about who I am. I'm not going to be worried about the soldiers coming because Judas already been paid and he's bringing them. They're on their way. I need you to watch my back. Say number one. Number one, you got to have friends, people who are ready to watch your back. You got to have somebody who can watch. That word watch means to be awake, to be alert, to be mentally understanding What are these people doing? What are they after? Let me tell you something. I need people around me, and not just me, but you. And we talking about you, really. You need people around you who are mentally awake and who are aware of who you are, what your plans are, what you're trying to build, the kind of business you're in. You got to have people that are around you who are woke enough to realize there are going to be people coming who want to take you off your game. That there are going to be people in your life whose goal is they can't stop you, but they can slow you down. There's some people you can't have in your life. They're your enemies. Now, they may not know they're your enemies because they think they're not the enemies. They think you're the enemies. Matter of fact, some of them, they're not even thinking about whether they're an enemy or not. But people who are not awoke, people who are not awakened, people who can't see, people who can't watch, can be a drag sometimes. You need someone who can watch your back. When you turn your back, you know you got eyes in the back of your head. Those are not your eyes. Those are somebody else's eyes. And secondly, you need some prayer. I'm not just talking about somebody praying for you and praying up into the sky and hoping something out of the sky will drop down for you. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a different kind of prayer. I'm talking about the kind of prayer that visualizes, the kind of prayer. Oh, and we can talk about this in another session because this is too much to talk about in this one. But the kind of prayer that visualizes, the kind of prayer that speaks inwardly, the kind of prayer that sets the stage, the kind of prayer that exudes a type of energy. Jesus said, watch my back and keep this energy going. Stay awake and pray so that you will not enter into temptation. So you don't have to you don't have to make choices so that you don't get into these pressure situations because something's about to jump off. Just let me know if anything happens. Jesus goes off, and I'm not going to even go into the prayer of Jesus. That's another class. He comes back an hour later, and here's what he finds. These three guys, they're they sleep. Jesus says, what? They're asleep. Jesus says, couldn't you just watch my back and at least pray for me for an hour? I put my life in your hands. How many of you have ever been in a place in your life where you were in a weakened state? Where you've gone through something and it was just like somebody took a baseball bat and knocked the screeching wind out of you. How many of you been in a place where things have just been so topsy-turvy? COVID-19, maybe I've been hearing these stories. A parent caught it. Then that parent took it home to the other parent. Maybe a grandparent, you lost your grandparents. You couldn't have the kind of funeral you wanted to. And if you privately did, like they're doing, then there was a spike in that COVID, and other people at that funeral, that gathering, caught it. And you feel a little guilty about it. Who are you going to social distance from? Who do you want closer in your life? Somebody that you don't want to social distance. Who do you trust? When they say to you, oh, no, man, I'm cool. I'm keeping myself together, keep my mask on. And you look out in the street and watch them, they don't keep their mask on, they partying just as hard. And then they want to come to you and you don't know whether or not you're going to catch something up. You trust. And you find yourself in a weakened state. And you turn your back and you're saying, watch my back. Because right now, I can't watch both places. I got to focus on something. The money's not right. You got to make the kind of money you need to make. You got to focus on you're changing a career. This is not just about you getting your old job back. You may have to change your career. You may have to go down the road of another thought process. Money may be coming in from different sources, and you got to make up your mind. Do we go back to what we've always known? Because that's what we do. We go back to what we know. But yet, your finances are coming into a different realm. What happens when this whole COVID is over? What happens when this social distancing is over? How do I go back? What do I do? Jesus was in a weakened state, and he was getting with his Father in order to determine this next world he was about to go in. Goes back, they sleep. Boys are knocked out. And he says, could you not just watch my back and pray just for an hour? So get up and wake up. Yeah, hey, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Oh, how long has it been? Oh, okay. Well, there's nothing going on. Look, don't worry about nothing. We got it. Jesus goes back. He says, all right. Goes back a little bit further. Sure enough, another hour goes past. Comes back. They sleep again. This time, it's too late. Judas shows up with the army, or with Jesus' enemies, the soldiers who are about to take him into custody. Now, it's so interesting. The soldiers, we would say, oh, these are Jesus' enemies. Well, the soldiers are just following orders. I don't think they think of Jesus as an enemy. They just doing what their supervisors and their generals and captains told them to do. What's the three things that enables you to push back on your enemies? What's the three things that enables you to keep them off the S on your chest? What are the three things that enables you for them never to be able to touch you? I told you, number one, you got to have somebody that can watch your back. Good people that will watch your back. Ride or die. Give and live. Somebody that's not going to betray you. Secondly, you got to have somebody that's going to be praying who's woke. In other words, the watch is to be woke. Somebody who's alive, who's thinking, who sees, who understands your mission, who understands where you're going. And the second, you got to have somebody who's going to pray to make sure that when they get tempted to loosen their guards, they don't let go. Here's the third thing. Now watch this. When I tell you what happened when the guards came to Jesus and got ready to take him and to grab him into custody, and I'm going to tell you, because you're going to be able to use this spiritually for your life to keep your enemies away. I'm going to tell you, they were just inches of grabbing his arms and taking him, and something happened. And I'm going to tell you about it. I'll give you that third thing. It's going to blow you away. Just for about 180 seconds, let me remind you how we take a moment. Three things. This is about giving, and it's 4 ways you can give. And one of the ways is go to myalc.org. That's myalc.org. Some of you are already on the website, and you see that donate button. You can click it. As soon as this goes off, don't leave. Just click that donate button. If you've never donated before, it will help you to fill out a very quick, it'll only take you no more than 90 seconds. It's very simple. That's myalc.org, and you can give that way. People, this is a time where we have to be able to keep our message going forward. Got to be woke here. Second thing is you can use the app. Those of you who have downloaded the app, you can go on Facebook, download the app. As a matter of fact, I believe you can even just from the website where you are, you can download the app. It tells you how to do it. The app enables you even to listen to our radio show. There's every Monday on KTSU 90.9 FM in Houston, but it goes globally. Mondays from 12 noon to 1 p.m. This is what you can do. And not only that, but you can also use your text to give. People love this. They like it because they can do it anytime. They say, oh, I forgot to give. And they can just give it. Here's the number. It's 713-742-2035. 713-742-2035. And you text it to that particular number. And in the message, you can type in 5 or 10, type in 20, whatever number you type in, that's how much you're giving. Isn't that easy? And if you're already set up, and it only takes a second if you're not set up, you're already set up, you got it ready to go. Now, if you just want to mail things in, we send, of course, if you got a return envelope, you can just mail it in. But you're saying, I want to write something. I want to send it to you by mail. I don't want to do it this way. There's some folk that are like that right now. All you got to do is send it to Abundant Life Center or Abundant Life Cathedral or Ed Montgomery, either way, because it doesn't go to me personally. It goes to our ministry. And that's Abundant Life Center, P.O. Box 772-300, Houston, Texas 77215. It's Abundant Life Center or Abundant Life Cathedral, P.O. Box 772-300, Houston, Texas 77215. Okay. Now, here is the third thing that will keep your enemies away. And you got to have a good mentor for this. You need a good spiritual mentor to teach you this. Because most of our spiritual teaching will be just to get you, we go to church and to comfort you and to make you feel better. When you've gone the last mile of the way, when you're gone through the storm, you're gone through the wind, when you can't go no further, just realize he's going to hold you in his hand and comfort you. And there's nothing wrong with that, because we do have to feel better. We need to feel better and to leave this feeling better. But it doesn't change anything. Your enemies can still come and take you even though you feel good. You got to have somebody watching as well as praying. You got to have somebody watching. You got to have somebody praying. And here's where that third thing comes in. Just what happened. Ooh. Jesus had been so alone with the Father. This is what he had learned. He had been so alone with God, his Father, the source, the cosmos, the universe, everything, that when he came out of this session, the soldiers asked the question, are you Jesus of Nazareth? And Jesus says, I am Jesus. I am he. I am. And when they got ready to grab him, as soon as he said, I am, you can read this. Oh, it's in John chapter 18. You can read it. It says, kaboom! The force of the I am, bam, knocked them backwards. They fell over and knocked each other over, and they were all on the ground. Jesus didn't hit them. God didn't hit them. The force of the phrase I am was so powerful that there was a cosmic explosion that knocked them down. When you know who you are, your enemies cannot get close enough to you to destroy you unless you let them. Oh my God, I'm going to say it again. Don't ever think that your enemies have power over you, that their gossip and that their words and that what they're saying has the power to destroy you and to destroy your message and destroy your purpose and destroy your relationship, to destroy this new relationship you've formed, to destroy this new job that you have. When you made the decision that you're about to go into another direction, and your enemies are going to say, oh, you'll never succeed, you'll never make it, you'll never go any higher, you're always going to be broke, you're always going to be poor. You step back and you get into that space with God, and that quiet space with God, and you begin to commune. That's what your mentor teaches you, how to commune with God. This is not the regular pray for strength. This is a different way to do it. There's steps to do this. And a good spiritual mentor will teach you this. And when you come out of that session, when your enemies come against you, all you got to say is who I am. And when you say I am, what's in them, the enemy part of them, backs up. As a matter of fact, Judas was the enemy. Satan had filled his heart, knocked him backwards. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you what happened. It knocked all hell out of it. Oh yeah. That what it did, knocked all hell out of Judas. Listen to me. Whew. I told you I'm going to be very open and very honest and not so cryptic in our future. And what we have to do church-wise. Now here it is. The question has been asked of me. Or they're asking, I think the mayor came on and says, churches are now able to go back. People can now go back to their churches, but here are the guidelines. Always understand, the CDC has always had guidelines about church. You've always been able to go to church. Always. But they said, here are the guidelines. And this has been this fight between church and state and this whole thing. And so there are some churches that are going back to their buildings. Now, what I mean, okay, let me say it this way. Some churches who are going back to their buildings and having their services as normal. But they've got to go back with their masks on, social distance. It's like they can go back at 25%, which means if you've got a church with 100 seats, 25 people can come in. If you got a church with 800 seats, 2, 4, 6, 8, 200 people can come in, but they'll socially distance you. If you got a church with 16,000 seats in it, there's some mega large churches. 16, 8, 4. You can get 4,000 people in there, social distance. This is what they're saying, this is what they're about to do. And they're beginning this, I believe, this Sunday. So some are asking me, Ed Montgomery, you going back to church now? Here's why I can get cryptic sometimes. I'll say, going back to church, well, we never stopped church. We're on church right now. The church is the people in their heart. But that's not what people mean. And that's why I have to be real open and honest. When people say, is ALC going back to church? Is Ed Montgomery going to be the pastor? Are you going back to church and be the pastor? Here's where I have to say, yes. Yes. We're going back to the building. We're going back into the building. We're going back to the church house. I know. I want to say it the way I feel it. In other words, we're already in church. This is church. Every Sunday is church. People asking, are you going back to the building? Will you ever do it? Yes, we will. Go back to the church house, to the church building. Number 2 question. When are you going? Are you going to go like everybody else on Sunday, well, evidently they was here this Sunday, but no. So are you going to go next Sunday? No. When are you going back to the building and have church? We want to know. I've had some say, well, we want to know so that, we can know if you're not going back next week or the week after, maybe, we'll go somewhere else or, hey, what can I say? We're not going back to the building this Sunday. We're not going back to the building next Sunday. We're not going back in the month of October. As a matter of fact, I'm not looking at us going back into the building in the month of November. Why not? It's called a pandemic. We have to find out, first of all, what's going on out there. The numbers in Texas keep spiking. Well, they've been going down, yeah, but we're beginning to see a rise in hospitals and death. I'm not just somebody who pastor the church so I can preach to you and the choir sing, we just have a good time. Listen, I care about your life. I don't want our seniors in a space that is not where we're totally comfortable. I'm not totally comfortable here. And I want to wait and see what's happening in our society right now. I want to get past this election. I want to see how we handle coming together. Well, they're going to the malls, they're going to the restaurants. Yeah, and these things are up and down too. Let's wait. Let's keep our church strong online. Let's watch and pray. And let's learn who we are mentor-wise. Let's do that. Look, I know you can keep your church running, keep your church supported. I've talked to some people and I've asked them honestly, what do you think? And they say, I'm not ready yet, Pastor. I know you're not. Yeah, many are called, but few are chosen. Something in me is saying, be still and know that I am God. John 10 says a shepherd has to open the gate for the sheep to go into the places where they will prosper. I have to watch that. This is what I have to do. We will go into the building. We will do it. But we will wait until the time is right. And when will that be? I promise you, I will tell you, I will keep you updated every week about the time. But not October. We got to get past this election first of all. We got to see. And I'm going to say a third thing. I'm going to say another thing for you that's going to help you. Be careful of the lure when you go to church. Now, there are going to be some that are going to require a mask if you happen to go to other buildings. There are those of you who go to other buildings, other ministries, they're requiring you to wear your mask when you go in. But you're going to also find some churches that are going to say masks are optional. Listen, you got to use your brain. Wake up. Optional? Think about that. Now, I hope I've been as open and candid as possible. Not so cryptic. Look, you keep doing what you're doing. Stretch your hands out to this screen. Kabam. This is where we touch. I can feel and I can sense the power of God moving right here, right now. I am so grateful for who you are. I am so thankful for who you are. You have made such a difference. I feel church. I feel church right where we are right now. I can sense the energy and the power flowing between us, even right now. It's almost like I can feel a shout in my soul between us. I pray that your family stays strong. I pray that your prosperity continues to overflow. I pray that your gifting continues to just explode upon your life. And I pray that you stay woke and realize that your God has not left you. I pray that you remain healed and whole. And I thank you for it. Amen. And that prayer is already answered. I love you. I shall not die, but live to declare the works of the Lord. For he has come that we might have life and have it more